Masechet Ketubot Daf Peh Vav. We're going to see some very interesting cases involving repayments of loans. So here's the first. Amar le Rava libre de Rav Chia bar Abin. Rava comes to the son of Rabbi Rav Chia bar Abin and tells him, Ta emalach mileta malyuta dehava amar avuch. Come here, son, and I will tell you some of the fantastic words that your father had taught, which is always nice for a son to hear the traditions from his father. So here's what Rava says. Hadamar Shemuel. Your father repeated something about Shemuel. That Shemuel had said, Hamocher shtar chov lachavero vechazar umechalo machul vafilu yoresh mochel. Let's say you have a loan document that says A owes money to B. Right? B had lent the money, and now A owes $1,000 to B. So B is holding on to a loan document that says A owes me $1,000. Now that document itself is worth money. And so B decides he is going to sell the contract to C. Right? Could be for $1,000, or maybe it'll be a little bit less because it's not quite payable now, and C has to go bother to collect it. And so B wants that cash value now, so he does that. Similar to the way people don't do it much now, but they used to sign a check over. If I receive a check for $100 and I have to pay someone else, I could just sign it over and that person will go and collect it. Okay, so you have an arrangement like that. A owes B, but B hands over the loan document to C. And here's the thing, in the middle, while C is still holding on to it before he gets repaid, B forgives the loan to A. He goes to A, listen, remember you had that loan and you owed me $1,000? I'm in a good mood today. You know what? Keep the money. You don't have to pay it. Now, this is amazing. That works. The loan is canceled, which means C is holding a worthless piece of paper, because when C goes back to A and says, okay, hey, your loan is up, A will say, oh, B forgave it. And yes, he can do that. And that will also work if we're talking about a inheritor. If B has died and it goes to, and now all of his property goes to B's son can also say, hey, listen, that money you had owed my father, so now I own his estate. You know what? Forget about it. You don't have to pay. That loan is forgotten, even though he was not the original principal. And now C is going to be out that money. We're going to talk in a few minutes about whether C can go back to B to collect it, because, hey, you caused me to that loss, but it's an indirect causation. So can he go and collect it or not? We'll see in a minute. All right, that Shemuel said. Here is now an additional thing. Modeh Shemuel b'machneset shtar chov leba'ala v'chazra umchalto she'eno machol mipnei sheyado keyada. So we're going to have a similar setup, but now we're replacing B with a woman and C with her husband. So A owes B, this woman, some $1,000. She has a loan contract. Now she gets married to C. When she gets married, she brings all of her assets, her land, her loans into the marriage. And so now B and C, the wife and the husband, are kind of partners in this. And so let's say B, the wife, goes to A and said, remember that $1,000 you owe me? Forget about it. I forgive you. That does not work, because C is a partner with B. His hand is like her hand, and now he has a vested interest in it, and so he has to agree to the forgiving of the loan. She cannot do it on its own. So the husband is not simply someone who's holding on to the documents like the first case where B sold the document to C, and so C is not a partner, but rather he's the now has the right to collect the document. Husband and wife are closer together. He has more rights over it and can stop her from forgiving it. Okay, so that is the wonderful law that Rava had repeated, and now we're going to see an actual application of this law. Keribte, the Rav Nachman is zebinte lechetubata betobat hanaa. A relative of Rav Nachman, that's important, it's a relative because Rav Nachman is going to give advice to this relative. So this relative sold her ketubah for some minimal financial advantage. In other words, this is a woman who's married, and she has a ketubah. In the ketubah, it says that the husband, upon divorce, will have to pay her $50,000, let's say. And so she doesn't want to wait till divorce. She wants the money now. So she wants a lump sum now. So she'll sell the right to collect it to someone else for probably significantly less. She might sell it for $10,000 because after all, if she dies first, then he doesn't pay anything out. So it could be he won't pay at all. And it could be that he won't have to pay for a long time. Maybe they won't get divorced. Maybe he will die first, but after a long time. And who knows if there'll be assets at that point or not. Okay, so the person receiving it is taking some risk. She's also, but that's why it would be at a discounted value. Okay, so she can do that. She can sell the ketuvah to someone else. Now, Igarsha ushchiba. In the meantime, after she sold it, they got divorced. At that point of divorce, the husband has to pay the ketubah. He didn't pay it yet. And she died, the wife died, and so now they have one daughter together. Right? Assume there's only one daughter, no son. So the daughter will eventually inherit her father. Okay, so now the mother died. It's important that they got divorced first. If they didn't get divorced and the mother just died, there would be no ketubah payout. So that's why divorced and then died. So now the husband has to pay this out, pay out the ketubah. But the question is to who? To whom? To katab ayla librata. The guy who bought the right to the ketubah comes to the daughter and says, listen, I bought the right to the ketubah, and the ketubah is going to be paid out to you as the inheritor of your mother, so we want to collect the ketubah from you. And they didn't give the money yet, so they didn't know what to do. Amar lehu Rav Nachman, leka delispa la isa. Rav Nachman, who's a relative of the woman and the daughter, says, "Is there no one who's going to give her advice? They have a good move here. Tezel v'tachala leketubata deima legabe abu v'tertamine." Here's what the daughter should do. She should go and forgive the mother's ketubah. The ketubah is basically like a loan document. It says, I owe you, even though it's not based on a loan. It's an IOU. The husband owes money to the wife. But the wife can at any point say, I forgive the loan, right? And so to the daughter, we just learned that an inheritor can also do it. So the daughter should go to the father and say, I forgive mom's ketubah. And then he will not have to pay. Eventually, the father will die too. And what happens to all of that money? That goes to the daughter as she is the inheritor. So all she has to do is forgive the loan, and then that knocks out the guy who purchased the ketubah. Because we just said, based on Shemuel's second statement, Shemuel's first statement, that this works. And if the loan is forgiven, that if she forgives the loan is forgiven. And so therefore, the father does not have to pay. Nobody has to pay that the buyer of the ketubah anything, because the ketubah is forgiven. The ketubah is not being paid out at all. Where's the money that would have been for the ketubah? The father keeps it. Father dies, the daughter gets it. See, she got out of it. So Rav Nachman says this brilliant thing. Shama azla achelta. So the daughter listened to Rav Nachman. She went and she forgave the ketubah and she kept the money. She eventually inherited the money. Good. Amar Rav Nachman, asinu asmenu keorchei dayanin. After Rav Nachman gave that advice, he regretted it. He said, we made ourselves like lawyers. We made ourselves like people who give advice, who give legal advice. And so this is, I found a loophole in the law by which the truth is that the guy who bought the right to the ketubah should get the ketubah. He paid money for that right. And now Rav Nachman suggested to the person that they didn't think of themselves this technicality by which they can get out of paying. Rav Nachman says, I should not have done that. In general, in Jewish courts, we do not like lawyers. I wrote a whole chapter about it. I can send it to you if you're interested. That lawyers they just use all kinds of tricks and persuasion to undo justice, and rather it should just be the litigants and the judges themselves. And if the litigants should say things as it is, and the judges should be fair. So Rav Nachman says, I feel bad that I got involved and told her this advice. Now the Gemara asks, what was he thinking at first when he did it, and what did he change his mind when he said, I regretted it? At first he says, after he was quoting the pasuk, from your own flesh and blood you should not hide. Since it was a relative, you got to help out your relative. In other words, right, in general, your relative is in some financial or legal situation, and you can give him advice, you should. He says, yeah, that's true in general, but an important person is different. I am a leader here of the community. I am a judge in the community. I can't show favoritism to a family member. I have to be above that, independent and completely independent and honest and trustworthy. I can't involve myself. So if he was not an important person, okay, if you have a brother and your brother needs a legal situation, okay, you can give that brother legal advice. But if you are actually an important judge, important sage, then you cannot use it because you have to be seen as above any favoritism. All right, good. Gufa, Amar Shemuel. All right, now that we saw that, we want to go back to the statement of Shemuel and analyze it further. If B sells a loan document to C, and then B forgives A, the loan is forgiven. And even the inheritor of B can forgive the loan. Amar Rav Huna bered Rav Yoshua v'pikeyachu mekarkesh lezuze v'katab leshetara bishmeh. If C is smart, now because this could happen at any time, and now C paid good money for this loan document, and if he wants to guarantee that he'll be able to collect the loan, even if B goes and forgives it, here's what he should do. He should jiggle some money in front of B. In other words, in front of A rather. C should pay A some money. All right, give him something, and convince A to write a contract that will say C's name on it, that it will say that A has to pay directly to C, such that if B decides to forgive the loan, it won't matter, and A will still have to pay C. Point is as follows. Let's say it was a loan document for $1,000, and C paid $1,000 for this loan document. Now, C is worried. At any time B could forgive the loan, he'll be out and he'll have nothing. So here's what he'll do. C should go and say to A, listen, I'll give you $50 if you just rewrite the document with my name on it. From A's perspective, this is a good deal, because how often does someone forgive a loan? This doesn't usually happen. He's not expecting. So A knows, right now I have to pay $1,000. You're offering me to pay only $950, but just change the name of the recipient. No problem. So it's a good deal for A. For C, it's also a good deal because now he'd rather have for sure $950, and there's no way that B can undo it, then yeah, $1,000, but B at any time can undo it is no good. So it's kind of like getting insurance on the collection. Okay, very good. It could be that to begin with, C only paid $900 for it because because it's the cash is worth more to B than the loan document that he'll have to go collect after some time. Okay, so it would all work out, and this is a way of getting insurance on that collection, and B won't be able to nullify it. Amar amemar man dedain dina de garme magbebe demesh tara me'alya. Okay, now to the question of, can C go back to B and say, B, you caused me a loss? It's true, indirectly. B didn't steal any money from C. B did everything, just he had in his right to forgive a loan to A, but indirectly by doing that, now C can't collect from A. So this is called garme. Whenever you cause something indirectly, like gerama on Shabbat, if like the Gerama phones, that when you pick up the receiver, it doesn't do anything, but that only causes some button to be depressed, and then on a timer when some electricity goes through it, then it will kick in. So since it's indirect, right, it's not a direct action, so that will affect Hilchot Shabbat. Also, it will affect damages. If I indirectly cause damage to someone else, do I have to pay or not? This is a huge subject called Dina de Garme. And there's a lot of opinions about it. So the one who says regarding Dina de Garme that you have to pay, Magbebe, that you do have to pay, someone who says that you are liable to Dina de Garme, then Magbebe de Meshtara Me'alya, then C can go to B and say, hey, you caused me indirect loss, you have to pay. Good. Even though it isn't indirect, nevertheless, he's responsible. Mandela dayin dina de garme. But with those, that opinion that says we do not think that indirect loss is anything, and you cannot adjudicate indirect loss and force someone to pay for it. Well, in that case, the C is adul. C cannot go to B. Why? C goes to B and says, "Hey, you caused me a loss." B will say, "What? What'd you buy from me? A piece of paper. You have the piece of paper, right? So you should be happy. I forgave a loan. That has nothing to do with you. That's completely indirect." And so all he sold him was the piece of paper, and okay, you have the piece of paper, and he can come and claim, yeah, but now the piece of paper is worthless, so he cannot collect from it. All right, so whether C can collect from B depends on that machloket. Now, Hava Obada, there was a case that was like this. V'chayfer Afram le Rav Asher. Rav Afram pressured Rav Asher to rule in such a manner that was some indirect loss, and he ruled, and Rav Afram convinced Rav Asher that he should rule that yes, you can collect. And the Rav Asher was able to collect for the litigant in that case as much as a beam for making a sculpture. Expression that means when you want to buy a beam because you're going to make a sculpture, you're going to inspect it very well to make sure it's straight, to make sure it's smooth, has to be very high quality. And so too, in this case, even though it was some indirect damage, Rav Asher was able to collect a full amount and analyze every bit of it and collect all that, even though it was something indirect. Good. Amar Amemar Mishmed Rav Hama. Hayman deika ale Ketubot isha uBaal chob. Okay, now we're going to see cases where someone owes two different things and who gets what. So a certain man, he owes a woman a ketubah. He got divorced. He owes her a ketubah. He also has a loan, and he has to repay the loan. He has real estate, and he also has cash on hand. So how should he pay it out? To the person that he owes money to, he should give him cash. He borrowed cash. He should pay back in cash. That makes sense. To the woman for the ketubah, he should pay her with land, because when she made the ketubah, the ketubah causes there to be a lien on his land, and so she's relying on the land for the repayment, and so that's why he should repay that with land. Each thing according to its proper legal context. Good, that's easy. But what if the same guy, he owes two people, his ex-wife and a creditor, but he only has one parcel of land, enough to pay only one of them? Who gets it? Only enough for one. Surprisingly, you might think, based on what we said above, that the land should go to the woman, because that's what you just said. But no, when there's only one piece of land, it goes to the creditor, and the woman gets nothing. Because the woman would agree to get married anyway. More than a man wants to get married, men want to get married, but women want to get married even more. And therefore, even if you say to the woman, listen, here's your ketubah, that's an incentive for her to get married. She knows she'll be taken care of. But you tell her, listen, if there's only one parcel of land, you're not going to get any money. You still want to get married? most women will say, I still want to get married, right? It's good for them to be married. Whereas regarding a lender, if you tell the lender, listen, if there's only one parcel of land, you're not going to get it. He'll say, okay, forget it, I'm out. I'm not going to lend money. And we want people to be lending money because people need loans. And so therefore, the lender needs more encouragement than the woman. So if there's only one, we give it to the lender and not the woman. Amar le Rav Papa le Rav Chama, Vadai amritu mishmeh de Rava. Rav Papa asks Rav Chama, is it correct, is it true that you said the following in the name of Rava? There seems something off about it, so he wants to double check on this attribution. Here's the case. Haiman de maske be zuzeh, veitle ar'a, a person who owes money, and the person who owes money also has land. Let's assume he doesn't have cash. The lender comes to him and says, pay up. And then the borrower says, listen, I don't have cash, but I have land, and go take the land, and then you sell it, and then you can keep the land, sell it, take the money. So the borrower is putting the onus of having to deal with selling the real estate onto the lender. That he can't do that. We go and tell the borrower, no, you do the work. Zil zebenat. You go find a real estate agent. You find a buyer. You deal with the transaction. And go give him money. He lent you money. Give him back money. That is what we heard that you said of Chama in the name of Rava. Is that true? Did you say that? Amar le'ela says, no, I never said that. So the Papa said, what's going on here? Let's get to the bottom of this rumor. Tell me the details of what happened. Now, why was he suspicious? The problem is that really the borrower should be able to say, here's the land. Because if it's a loan that has a lien on land, so really the lender is giving him money in exchange for a lien on the land. The land is in fact part of the deal. So if the borrower comes and says, take the land, so then that is legitimate. He can pay back with land. So it should be fine, and we shouldn't go and tell the borrower and pose on the borrower to have to go and sell the land and get cash and pay it back. So this is an unusual law. That's why the Papa was suspicious that Rava really said this. So he's telling me the circumstances, and so here's exactly the case. This borrower, he had some cash on the table there. The lender comes and says, pay me back. Oh, here's cash. Give me the cash. And he doesn't want to give him the cash. So he says, oh, this cash, it belongs to some non-Jew. It belongs to the mafia boss, right? So you can't take it. Now he's lying. He just wanted to protect his cash so no one would take it. So hu asa shelo kehogen. This borrower did something incorrect, improper. That's why in that case the judges treated him improperly and said, listen, usually in most cases you could just give the land and then the lender has to deal with the headache of taking the land and converting it to cash. But you acted like a wise guy by making believe that this cash here wasn't yours. Therefore, we're going to treat you improperly, and we're going to pose on you, the borrower, the headache of going and selling your own land to pay the fine. So that was an exceptional case, and that was the situation. But in fact, no, I never said that Rava would apply that law in every case. In the usual case, a person can repay with land. Just take the land, you deal with it. Amar le Rav Kana le Rav Papa, lididachta amat priyat baal chov mitzvah, amar lo nicha lidit abid mitzvah mai. So Rav Kana asked Rav Papa, your opinion is that paying back a loan is a mitzvah, right? Who says you have to pay back a loan? It's a mitzvah aseh, right? Torah says, be honest, keep your word, and therefore, if you said you're going to pay, you have to keep your word and pay. It's a mitzvah aseh. What if a person says, I don't want to do a mitzvah aseh? Does he have to? I mean, it's mitzvah aseh to go visit a sick. I'll say, I'm not in the mood right now to visit the sick. Right? Are you going to force me to go and visit? We don't force people to do a mitzvah aseh. So a person says, I don't feel like paying it. I'm not going to pay it. How can we force him? And the answer is, Amale Tanena, we have it in a Braita. When the Torah says that you can give someone 40 lashes, that's if they violate a lo ta'aseh. They go and eat pig. well, we give him lashes for that. אבל במצוות עשה, כגון שאומרים לו, עשה סוכה ואינו עושה, לולב ואינו עושה. But regarding mitzvot aseh, we tell him, hey, Sukkot coming, go make a sukkah, go take a lulav. And he says, no, I don't want to do it. Then you know what? We hit him until his soul departs from him. In other words, not doing an aseh, we give more lashes than someone who violates a law ta'aseh. And therefore, yes, we can. It's not like, misvat aseh that you can do more of, you could do less of, you could do more bikur cholim or less. But this one is an obligation. Like you have to build a sukkah, so too you have to pay a loan. And if someone doesn't want to pay a loan, he says, I don't want that mitzvah. I'll go do a different mitzvah instead. No. We go and we give him lashes until he agrees to fulfill the mitzvah. All right. Now, a new set of questions. Baal mineh is about someone who wants to give a delayed get. Baal mineh Rami bar Chama merav Chisda. Rami bar Chama, who's known for asking very theoretical questions, asks Rav Chisda, Hare ze gitech velo titgarshi bo ela le'achar sheloshim yom. A man goes to a woman and says, here's your get, but the divorce will not take effect until after 30 days. Okay. She takes the get, she puts it on the side road of on the side of a public domain. So if it's in the middle of a public domain, then that's not a place where someone can acquire something. So when the 30-day comes, it's no good, right? Because she can't acquire it. If she puts it in her own house, then that for sure will be good, because at 30 days, she has it in her house. That's when the acquisition takes effect. That's fine. But here, it's in between, right? It's on the side of the public domain where people would go and congregate. It's semi-private area. So what is that? How do we consider that? Rav Chisda answers, Amar le, ena megoreshet, midrav Shmuel, the Rav Shmuel amret harvayu, v'hu shesiburim monachim b'shut harabim, v'sidei reshut harabim, kirshut harabim damum. He answered that she is not divorced, because we learned this from Rav and Shmuel, who said above, talking about someone seizing a property, after someone dies and you can go and seize it to collect a loan. And they said, no, if it's in the middle of the public square, only then you can seize it, because if it's in the middle of the public square, it doesn't go to the inheritors. Right? That's what Rav and Shmuel said. We learned from that when something is in the middle of Reshut Harabim, then it is not acquired. Not by the inheritors. You have to go and actually, it's hefker. Anyone who takes it can take it. So to the get, if it were in the middle of the street, then it's not hers. She cannot acquire it that way. And we're assuming, this is the first version of this answer, we're assuming that the sides of the public street are like the middle of the street. And so therefore, she does not acquire it. And when comes those 30 days, she is not divorced. Okay, that's his answer. But then Rami bar Chama goes answers back and says, Adrabah, wait, why don't you say the opposite? Megoreshet, midrav Nachman. You could say equally that she is divorced based on what Rav Nachman said. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba bar Abu. Haomer lechavero meshoch para zo velo tiyeh kenuya lecha ad lachar sheloshim yom kana. Va'afilu omedet ba'agam. After all, Rav Nachman gave a different halacha that says if someone says, pull this cow now, pulling a cow, that's how you acquire it, even though the transaction will not be valid until 30 days from now, it works, that's fine, even if it's standing in a meadow, it's an ownerless place, not in the property of the one who pulled it. My love, hainu agam, hainu sedei reshut rabim, isn't the meadow the same as being in the public domain? They're both ownerless areas, and therefore you see that it works. And just like after the 30 days, since the animal is in such a place, yet the transaction works. So too, when the get is in a similar place, at the end of 30 days, also it should be hers, and the side of the side of the Reshut Harabim does acquire it for her. Why don't you say that? And Rav Chisda says, no, lo, agam lechud, v'sidra reshut harabim lechud. A meadow is different from the sides of the public domain. Meadow is really in the middle of nowhere, nothing. Whereas the sides of the public domain, people do go and say, we'll make a little meeting here. And so it's a place where people will do a transaction, a private transaction in that spot, even though it's not his own personal property. It is used for private matters, and therefore is better than a meadow. Okay, so that would be the bottom line in this version, is that she is not divorced. But there's another version where that's different. Ika de amre, amale megureshet. Some say that Rav Chisda answered Rami bar Chama, if it's in the sides of Reshut Rabim, she is divorced. How do you know? And in this version, it's Rav Chisda that said, Mid Rav Nachman, Reshut Rabim kagam dame. And just like the cow that's in the meadow is his, and the meadow is is sufficient for that pulling 30 days ago to now be effective, so too the sides of the Reshut Rabim are also good enough, and she does acquire the get, and she is divorced. And then Rami bar Chama answers back, says, Adraba, and Ami Gureshet mid Ravu Shmuel. No, opposite. Why don't you say it's like Rav Shmuel, that say when something's in Reshut Rabim, then it's public and anyone can take it. The orphans don't get it. And my love, Hainu Reshut Rabim, Hainu Sidei Reshut Rabim, Rami bar Chama says, in the sides of Reshut Rabim, the same as the middle. And to that, Rav Chisda answers, Lo, Reshut Rabim Dechud, V'sidei Reshut Rabim Dechud. No, the sides of the Reshut Rabim are different from the middle of it. Sure, in the middle of it, he would not acquire it, but on the sides, he does acquire it. That's like a discrete area that's semi-private, and therefore the wife does acquire her get there, and the bottom line in this version is that she would be divorced. No Mishnah teaches Hamoshiv et ishto chenvanit o shemina apotropia hareze mashpia kol zeman sheyirseh. A man sets his wife up as the storekeeper in his store, puts her to work, or he appoints her to be the steward to handle his property or his workers or his finances. If he does that, he can make her swear anytime he wants and say, did you pocket any change from the cash register, right? Did you misappropriate any funds? Anytime he could make her swear to check up on her. That's Tanakama. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, afilu al pilka ve'al isata. Rabbi Eliezer says he can also administer an oath even regarding the spindle or regarding her dough. He can say, did you take some dough for yourself? Did you steal some string and take it for yourself? After all, the husband owns the dough and everything in the household. She has to do these household chores, but she can't hide and take things for herself. So Rabbi Eliezer says he can make her swear, even regarding her personal household chores, and not only if he appoints her to do professional work. All right, that's the Mishnah. Ibaya lehu, Rabbi Eliezer al yedei gilgul kamar or lechatechila kamar. The question is regarding Rabbi Eliezer, that he can make her do an oath even for these household items. Does Rabbi Eliezer say, is he saying that only by means of extension, meaning only in a case where he appoints her to oversee the shop? Since he can make her swear regarding the professional things, so then while he's at it, he can also make her swear regarding personal items. Kind of like, if the police have a right to search your car for looking for marijuana, once they're there, they can also search it for other things. So that is he saying that, but otherwise, if she was not a shopkeeper, then he would not be able to make her swear regarding the household items. Or does Rabbi Eliezer think that in any case, even if she's not appointed as a shopkeeper, even without extension of Gilgul, any husband has a right to go to his wife anytime and say, "Hey, did you steal this? Did you take that?" What is Rabbi Eliezer's position? All right, let's see. Is it a standalone statement, or is he only saying only in the case of Tanakama was talking about? Then he could make an oath, give an oath about all things. Here, so answer proof number one. Tashema Amru lo Rabbi Eliezer. And Adam dad im nachash bechfifa. The continuation of this conversation is that the sages told Rabbi Eliezer, a person cannot live with a snake in the same basket. In other words, even if you can hold it at bay for a little, eventually the snake will get you if you're living in the same basket. So too, woman can be expected to live with a husband who's constantly making her swear. It's just impossible to have a life like that. So, no, sorry, you can't make her do that. Okay, that was the continuation we have in a Braita. Now let's analyze. If we're talking, if Rabbi Eliezer thinks that a man can make his wife swear in any case, then this question would make sense. Hey, people can't live like that. But if it's just as an extension of oaths that he's already making her take, so then what difference is there? Since he's already making her give a lot of oaths, and that's according to the Chachamim, say he can make her take an oath anytime. So then it's not any more of an imposition to say, listen, while you're taking an oath that you didn't steal from the cash register, also add in, and also I didn't take any dough. Right, and so he's going to bring her constantly, bring her to take an oath, but it's not any more of an imposition, what Rabbi Eliezer says, than what the Chamim themselves say. So that would make sense. So therefore, it must be Rabbi Eliezer thinks that it's lechatechila, even if he's not a store owner, she's not a store owner, and otherwise he's not making her give oaths for the store. He can take her anytime and make her give an oath. That's what Rabbi Eliezer thinks, and that's why Chachamim are against it. We answer, not necessarily. Damrale kevan de kadayakt batrai kulehai lamasena de adur behadach. She can say, "You're so exacting with me that much. I don't want to live with you." In other words, it's not just the imposition that he's making her swear. That's the problem. That okay. Is one part of the problem. But if she's a storekeeper, then okay, bosses will do that for their storekeepers. They're not usually married, but they should trust each other. Okay, if they don't trust each other, then fine. That's the one imposition. But the worst part of it is that he just doesn't trust her. Even regarding household things, she can say, I don't want to live with such a person who keeps questioning me, right? What kind of marriage is that? It would be horrible. So Rabbi Eliezer can in fact say that in other words, according to Chachamim, it would make sense to make a distinction. Yes, a man can make his wife swear any time about the store things, and she can live with that because it's business stuff. But regarding personal items, that she wouldn't want. Whereas Rabbi Eliezer would say, yes, even personal items would be a problem. So there is a distinction between the two opinions. Fine. Da tashema. Or second proof, again, we're going to try to prove that Rabbi Eliezer thinks that his wife can administer her oaths in all cases, even if she's not the storekeeper. So this Braita says, a man did not exempt his wife from oaths. And sometimes we're going to see in the next Mishnah that a man can say in the Ketubot, listen, I'm not going to make you make oaths, right? Let's say she negotiates for this. She says, I don't want to marry you if you're going to come and make me give an oath all the time. So but let's say he didn't write that. So that means he does have a right to make her vow. So since he did not exempt her from vowing, if he then appoints her to be a storekeeper or to be a steward over his finances, then he can, in fact, make her vow anytime he wants. But if he didn't appoint her as a storekeeper or as a steward, then he cannot make her take vows. Okay, so the vows are only if she's doing this professional work and cannot be for personal items, according to Tanakama. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, אף על פי שלא שיבה חנוונית ולא מינה אפוטרופיה, הרי זה משפיע כל זמן שיריסה, שאינך אישה שלא נעשית אפוטרופיה, שאחת בחיי בעלה על פלחה ועל עיסתה. This now is explicit. Rabbi Eliezer says, even if he did not make her a storekeeper or a steward, a husband can make his wife vow anytime he wants, because there is no wife who is not a steward, at least for some time, when her husband is alive, regarding the spindle or the dough. Meaning we're going to call that a steward also, even though it's only over these personal items or chores. That dough is also she is in charge of the dough, and so he can take a vow anytime. And the continuation of the Braita, Zamru Lo, and Adam Dar im Nachash bechvifa. The rabbi said, no, a person can't live like that. That she's going to make him swear all the time. If she's a store owner, then that's okay because that's a business deal. But to get personally if he's suspicious of her regarding personal household items, that she has a right to say, I don't want to live with you. Okay, that's the end of the Braita, but it's clear, Shemamina lechatechila Shemamina. Rabbi Eliezer says explicitly that he can make her swear, even if she's not the store owner. He can make her swear at any time, so that is in fact the position of Rabbi Eliezer. Okay, fascinating to see the role of vows in the culture in those days, and how much they were used, and you had a better appreciation of why we do Hatarat Nedarim so many times today. Okay, Katav la neder ushpu'a en li alayich. Okay, next Mishnah is that a man wrote in the Ketubah, I will not administer vows to you, right? I agree to that. I'm not going to mistrust you. You don't have to make vows all the time. En yachol hashpi'a. Then the man cannot force her to make a vow that she didn't steal things in the house. Aval mashpi'ahu et yorsheha vet abim birushata. But that husband still retains the right to force her inheritors to make a vow. If she dies and some of the property goes, whatever she brought in goes to her inheritors, he can go to the inheritors and make them vow that they didn't take anything that isn't theirs, or to those who come on her authority. For example, if she sold the right of her ketubah to a third party, the husband can go to the third party and say, you need to vow that in order to collect what is in the ketubah, so he can make them vow that they're not stealing. Neder ushwa en li alayich ve'al yorshaych ve'al habayim birshutech. If the husband wrote or said in the ketubah that I'm not going to make a vow, I'm not going to make you vow, not you, and not your inheritors, and not those who come based on your authority, the third party who bought the ketubah. If he wrote that, then then he cannot make any of those people swear. But but if the husband dies and the inheritors, the sons of the husband, they didn't say that they're not obligated under that condition, and so they can make the wife or her inheritors or the third party who bought the ketubah vow, and in order to make sure that they're not taking what's not theirs. Now, next possibility, neder ushbuah, the husband writes or says, En li velo liroshai velo labeim bershuti. I am not going to make you vow, and I'll also, my inheritors and those who come under my authority will not make anyone vow. And they're not going to make you or your inheritors or those who come upon your authority vow. In other words, no vows. Nobody associated with me will make anybody associated with you make a vow. So he cannot make her vow. Right? So none of the parties either way can make anyone vow, and that is valid. Lastly, הלכה מקבר בעלה לבית אביها, או שחזרה לבית חמיها ולא נעשית אפוטרופיה, and היורשים משפיעים אותה. We're talking about a case where the husband and wife were living together, then the husband dies, and now the inheritors of the husband are suspicious of the wife that maybe she has misappropriated funds after the father died, because they didn't get to inherit everything, and maybe she's going to go around the house and said, this vase, I really like it, and I'm going to go and take it. And so if the woman has access and control over the things in the house, even after the husband dies, then the inheritors can make her swear that she did not take anything. But in the following cases, they cannot make her swear. If she went directly from the cemetery back to her father's house and she didn't go back home, well then, there's no way that she stole anything, so there's no suspicion. They cannot make her swear. Or even if she did go back to her in-laws' house, meaning to her husband's house, I guess they lived in a compound together with the in-laws, but she was not made a steward. So she just went there and she was sitting around there for a while, but she was not in charge of anything. Then the inheritors cannot make her vow that she didn't take anything. But if she was made a steward, Your husband dies and says, okay, now listen, you gotta, until we figure out the will, you are in charge of everything here. Then the inheritors come, maybe they were kids and now they grow up. They can make her swear on that which is to come. Not about the future, it's not swearing about that she won't do a crime in the future, but rather means from the time of the death of her husband and onward, she swears that she did everything correctly. And they do not make her swear about the past, about during the husband's lifetime, because that was matters between the husband and wife. If the husband had a problem, so they would deal with it. The husband died, so we start the clock there. That's when the inheritors come in as interested parties and want to make sure that nothing was taken from that point on. So if she's in charge of the property, then they can make her swear. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.